Okay.
Okay.
Happiness and pride and anger, we have access to.
Yeah, we
Okay?
got that. We
got that. Vulnerability, dependency, sadness, man, that, I was like, there you go. And there are fundamental tendency differences.
Yeah.
And one of them is going to be the way in which the intersection of relation, of talking about feelings, of that connection, that's going to be played out differently when women are with women and men are with men. Okay. And then the crosstalk between the two. Okay. So then we can get into, what goes on with that crosstalk and why is it so often? And there is a normative tendency for men to have difficulty with, and I should say with certain kinds of emotion. Okay. Happiness and pride and anger, we have access to.
Yeah, we got that. We
got that. Vulnerability, dependency, sadness, man, that, I was like, there you go. And so it isn't that we can't talk about our feelings. Look at men get angry. They talk about that. Okay. But shame, guilt, vulnerability, sadness, dependency, there's a whole set. And notice those kinds of emotions, childlike and more feminine. Okay.
Yeah.
And we have them. We have inner child, but our personhood and its ability to connect that and narrate that is very hard. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's where a lot of the block is.
What's the reason that it's hard? Is it mentally? Is it society? Is it both? Like what's going on there?
Instantaneously both. Okay.
Okay.
And we can say why, because let's think about what archetypal, when I use the word archetypal, I mean sort of that from nature into society image, okay, of the man, right? Okay. And it's strong and it's powerful, it's independent. Right. And now, especially in the West, you have John Wayne in the 50s, and now let's think about that in relationship to the emotions we identified: sadness, guilt, vulnerability, dependency, injury. Notice instantaneously, like, wow, there's a real disconnect between that image and these feelings.
There we go.
All right. And if then society then says, hey, we don't get to give you we're not going to help you figure out how to, that's why I really like doing work with men, because they have been the society's been so reticent and unable to give men the vocabulary to learn how to get that person part of them talking to the heart.
Yeah.
Okay. In a way that allows them to feel coherent and integrated. But instead, what happens is if I start to feel this, and of course, why are you feeling it? It's because you've had a loss, because you feel vulnerable. Yeah. And if you're immature about it, you'll then start to talk like a child, and then other people, your wives and your friends or any other people will start to punish you because you won't be being a man.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you get all the secondary anxiety, and then you compartmentalize it and jam it away, and you stick it in your subconscious shadow, and you say, "Hey, it didn't bother me at all." Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Man.
As if.
Right. Right. Oh man. Okay. So the things that you're talking about, all these things, I love to do that.
Yeah.
And probably my whole life, I've been a talker. I want to communicate. I want to, engage with people in that way. Sure. My wife has said it at one point in time, a couple years ago. She was joking. And I knew she was joking, so it was funny. I think we were watching something. Anything that has to do with, if we're watching any movie that has to do with the struggle of a man and his children, and there's a triumph, or it shows them being vulnerable, that makes me emotional the most, right? Yeah. Because it's something that I identify with. Right. So we were watching something, and she said, I was crying, and she laughed and said, "You're such a skirt," right? Yep. So and I laughed too, because it was funny, because I didn't feel threatened by it. Like she was she was joking, but I'm really into, the emotions and having
Right.
people be able to recognize their emotions and things like that. So sometimes I go, man, I feel like I think more like a woman.
Right.
Is that a real thing? Or why does it seem like it's easy for me to
Right.
do that than a lot of other men? A lot of women have called me things like, you're a unicorn. You're
Yeah.
not like a lot of other guys. You're this.
That's
So
right.
what is that
That's right.
about in your
Because
opinion?
you have, it's what's called, okay, so Carl Jung is a famous psychologist who worked on archetypes.
Okay.
And I think he did a really nice job of being clear that there are masculine and feminine archetypes.
Right.
Okay. Energies, call them. And all people in the gender similarities have both masculine and feminine. Okay.
Right.
So you and I are very much alike. How? Because we're anchored in masculinity, but we both have a feminine heart or aspects of it. Okay. That's why I become a therapist. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I see somebody injured. Okay.
Right.
And what it does is it just pulls naturally a maternal kind of instinct. I want to protect that individual. I want to hold that individual.
Yeah.
I want to cultivate that individual back to health.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's of course, men and women do this, but that's archetypally feminine.
Yeah.
Okay. You go to your mom when your knee is cut, right?
Gotcha.
Okay. And then your dad hovers around and makes sure both mom and kid are okay. That's the archetype, right? I'll protect, and then mom, you deliver the care. Well, we're very complicated creatures, so we can touch that. And I often talk about the feminine therapist side of me and the masculine scientist side.
Right.
Okay, so that's an archetypal. Well, here, how do you solve that problem? Blah, blah, blah. Do that. That's my archetypal dad-like scientist.
Yeah.
Okay. And I wish we could cultivate in both of us, all of us. It's hard. Both. You want assertive, strong women who are sort of in touch with their archetypal masculine energy. Right?
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Can be. But it's also the case that most people will most men will have a more archetypal masculine.
Yeah.
And some will be underdeveloped, both based on their disposition and then their socialization and developmental learning so they're afraid. So your wife calls you a skirt or mine, and you're like, yeah. Well, a lot of guys are like, oh my God. Right? What are you saying? I'm gay?
Right.
Oh, dude, no, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's actually good, that you have touch and feminine. But if you're not socialized that way, if you don't understand you have both these energies, and that's fine. And you're trying to fill a role and you're doing it defensively, that becomes threatening. And then you try to push away. And if you have that as part of your person consciousness, what happens when your heart starts to feel any of the feminine things? It feels alien and scary. Inconsistent with who you think you are.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of it has to do with my upbringing. My dad, was like that in a lot of ways. In terms of like, speak what's on your mind, like what's on your, like, talk about it, what's going on, so then that leads me to believe that, okay, men, like you say, men need, first of all, permission, and then they need practice to be able to go through those things.
Beautiful, of course.
Which is why I've tried to focus on men in terms of being whole, like, hey, yourself, or even when it comes to hey, your money, what's your relationship with your money, or blah, blah, all of these things,
Totally.
So if you could put a I don't know, 1, 2, 3 or ABC type of thing on it, what is it that men are missing, in terms of going and being the best person that they can be, and going and accomplishing their goals, or being able to interact with people in a healthy way? Like, what sorts of things are we struggling with and missing?
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, you said, we want whole dudes, right?
Right.
Right. Okay. Well, believe me, your heart carries both, has this whole matrix. I call it the influence matrix, which tracks your social motivation and the emotional feelings around them. Okay. Yeah. And we come born with the vast majority of us. Now, people can have obviously particular, troubles or disabilities, but a neurodevelopmental typical person has both of these. Okay. And a man will have the masculine self part a little bit more readily developed.
Okay.
And the woman will have the feminine other part a little more readily developed.
Okay.
But man, do we want both of those parts, that self other, what's forming a healthy dialectic in your heart.
Right.
Okay. That's what you want. All right. Now you can have a dominant mode, but you want both of them to be healthy and in balance.
Okay.
So if you don't get your person part as a man, we'll use that as the example. Okay. And you say, oh gosh, all of this other stuff, this woman-like stuff makes me feel lesser, or I don't understand it, or it's alien. Okay. So that person part, then as soon as you start to allow that heart part, you break it off. Okay. And jam it away.
Right.
And you're no longer whole.
Yeah.
Okay. You're disintegrated,
Yeah.
broken off. Okay. And now the whole relationship that you're going to have with who you are at your phenomenological, that's a technical word for your first person experience of being the unique person that you are, now it's like broken off. And that's why you start to feel empty inside or confused and then when you're that way, then your person says, oh no, maybe I'm a fraud or an imposter, or I'm a lot more vulnerable than people realize. So guess what they do? They compensate. And often many of them will then try to become hyper masculine.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And really you just act a dude, let it go. That's not the right way. You're just breaking it off, and now you're crumpling it up, and you're jamming it in a closet, and it'll come back and bite you anyway. And you won't be whole. Yeah. So in terms of the first thing before like ABCs is sort of like, just know that what you're doing is you're breaking your heart in half and jamming half of it in a closet. It's a tough way to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Man. Okay. I appreciate this, sir. Like, this is I love this. I want you to have the opportunity to kind of let people know where they can seek you out. I'm not sure if you do therapy sessions remotely or anything. So whatever it is that you want people to know, your websites and the things that you do as far as your work, tell us a little bit about that before you go.
Sure. So first off, thanks for having me here. Yeah, I'll make sure you get my email. My work email is available in public, so people can just write me. So I really believe, I'm first and foremost a psychotherapist. Okay. So I went into psychotherapy, and then I learned that there were all these really cool models, okay, in psychotherapy, but they were all different and they didn't talk to each other. Okay. And that pissed me off. Okay. Because I was like, hey, I want to use them all. Yeah. And then I went in the 1990s, I had a couple of insights, and then I think I figured out a way to actually make them talk to each other. Okay. So we can actually have a whole picture of psychotherapy grounded in psychology. And then it took me on this really weird place down into science and philosophy. Yeah. And I ultimately built this thing called a unified theory of knowledge, and even depicted in the form of a garden. That's the thing behind me. Okay. All right. It's called the Garden of Atua, and that's actually a playoff of the Garden of Eden. Okay. And a tree in the middle of it. All right. And the idea is that I think that there's a way to get a different kind of enlightenment going in the 21st century. Okay. All right. So the Enlightenment happens in the 16th, 17th century, and we really nail the basic sciences like STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. Like, we get a language for that. Right. But that scientific language breaks down at psychology. Like we have physics and chemistry and biology, and then it goes to crap at the level of psychology. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's where you get all these different voices. Okay. So I figured out a way, I think, to align psychology in a coherent way, and then we can give it to the people. Yeah. All right. So people can actually make sense out of their bodies, their primate selves, their person selves, how inside they can get all crazy, and how between us, when that happens, we then get crazy with the people around us. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I look out at the world and I see so much mental suffering. So many people that are disintegrated because they don't know how to relate to their body and their primate self and their person self in their world. Yeah. So they're just living half lives and frustrated. They know they have more potential, but they don't know how to align those systems. Yeah. And so that's what fundamentally, at a practical level, is trying to align those systems with much more coherent integration so that people can live much more fulfilling lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Greg, thank you so much. We're definitely going to talk. Again, I appreciate your time.
I really enjoyed it. I appreciate it. I think you're doing wonderful things. I think 70% of psychotherapy usage is used by women. It's about 75% of the field. That is, I really believe we got to figure out, help guys make sense out of this stuff.
Yeah.
And actually both the sexes,
Yeah.
all the sexes, however you want to talk about it these days, would be better off, if we do this. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing and I want to support.